Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Sunday sermon with your boy, Mike, your mentor. Hope you guys are capping off a good end to your weekend. Really appreciate you taking the time to be here with me and to check this out. Got something good for you on the Sunday sermon. We're talking about leadership and what that looks like. And to be honest with you, growing up, I really struggled with this idea of leadership because I had someone tell me one time I wasn't a leader, and that hurt. And they told me I wasn't a leader because I wasn't vocal enough, and I really struggled with that because I didn't feel like I needed to be vocal. I felt like real leaders, they lead by example. And then when you lead by example and you're doing the right things, then you have permission, I guess, to tell others what they should be doing who, are part of the team, or maybe that the ones that look up to you. I'm sure we can all think of those people growing up that run their mouth, right? They just talk and talk and talk, but they never do anything. They never back it up. They never follow through. And, I didn't want to be one of those people. I remember in college, too, some people, I don't want to name no names, but we had a routine, a workout we were supposed to do on the basketball team. And, it pissed me off when guys who were supposedly supposed to be the leaders on the team, they wouldn't do their whole workout. They'd, do half of it, or they'd do a little bit of it and then leave, and that just always bothered me. I guess, people have different thoughts of what leadership is and what that looks like, but tonight I want to share something with you regarding leadership and what I think that it looks like, and be interested to hear your thoughts. So welcome to this page. If you're new and you're tuning in, the quick 1-minute story on me is grew up without a father. Really caused a lot of hurt in my life. Felt rejected, felt abandoned, and because of those things, I sought out a lot of other things, some healthy, some unhealthy, to kind of prove my worth. And from a young age, I was going to show my dad, even though he wasn't around. I made this vow that I was going to make him regret not wanting to be a part of my life, and I was going to do the best that I could to never be like him. Unfortunately, my dad died when I was 23 years old, under some hard circumstances. He died of stage 4 liver cancer, and that really rocked my world because he didn't know anything about me, and I regretted that a lot, and I felt sorry for him, but I was also angry and upset about that, and it hurt. And so pretty much my whole life, I've been trying to understand what it means to be a man and what that looks like, from reading books to observing people to having mentors. And this page is just a culmination of all that wisdom that's been sowed into me for 38 years, and it's my attempt to share that with whoever will listen. So I appreciate you tuning in. I definitely try to be as vulnerable as I can, and just share, my real thoughts and what I feel and what I've been through and how it's affected me, to encourage you. So let's jump into tonight's content and take a look at what we got here. And I should probably make a small confession here. I'm jumping ahead a week because it's funny, all the stuff that I've really shared on this page, you'd think that there's nothing that I wouldn't be afraid to share. And to be honest with you, I am a little scared. So this week was supposed to be talking about embarrassment, and I was going to tell a story of probably my most embarrassing thing that ever happened to me in life. But I'm nervous, so I decided to skip ahead a week. So I'll leave that on the back burner, and then we'll come back to that. And before the year is over, I'll grow the courage to share that with you guys. But for this week, we're talking about Are You a Leader or a Follower, Part 1. And that's a pretty cool picture of a lion. that we got on here. So this slide is one of my favorite slides, and it just reminds me of what I see a lot of people doing, and they act like a bunch of lemons, and they just follow everybody with where they're going, what they're doing, what they're saying, what they're believing. And the first person that raises their voice and says, hold on, wait a minute, something's not right here, they're told to shut up and that they're a moron, and to just do what they've been told, or follow the crowd, and that it's for their own good. And you see this play out. I mean, there's a number of things in politics and in our country in America, opinions and stuff, where we see this play out every day. I had a great conversation last night with somebody at a birthday party, around this subject, and we have extremely different views on a lot of things, me and this person. But what made it such a great conversation, is just the bottom line was nothing gets changed anywhere in anything until someone has the courage to stand up and to say, hey, something's not right here, and then to take the next step and say, I'm going to do something about it. And what we were specifically talking about, and you'll forgive me, I can't remember the girl's name, but it was the girl who, I guess, organized all of the protests regarding climate change for the high schools all around the country. So I may have some of my details wrong. I didn't follow it very closely. But this person I was talking to was telling me how this girl, she's now being given, or she's going to be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. And whatever your thoughts are on climate change, it's like, that's a perfect example, right? This girl believes something so strongly, and she didn't feel like something was right, so she decided to stand up and say something about it. And I can only imagine at first when she started doing that, even probably now, the amount of, I don't know, hate and people putting her down and trying to discourage her. And it's just a tremendous story of someone speaking up and then putting action behind what they believe to be right and to be true. And it goes to show you the power of what we can accomplish as humans when we have that mindset, right? When we choose to live in that zone of power that we all have, and to realize and fight for our dreams and for what we feel is important. So let's talk about this thing called the SALT principle. And this SALT is an acronym that describes these characteristics that, in my opinion, these are the characteristics that make up a great leader. Doesn't need, oh my gosh, I can't talk tonight. Doesn't mean you need to be, CEO of a company, as the father of your as the father in the house, as the person who has been given the title of headship in their home. You're a leader, and that obviously comes with certain responsibilities. And these are some things that maybe you want to think about in terms of your own character and your own development, and what that means to you as you can continue to grow in that responsibility. So the first thing is the S is for a servant's heart. And really it all comes down to, are you willing to do what is required and willing to do what is not requested? And I think that's interesting, right? That last part. Are you willing to do what is not requested? I've had the privilege in the past of serving on this event called Quest. It's a men's event, and typically there's 28 to 30 guys that are going on this event, and then there's a dozen or so staff. And we it's our job to love on these guys during the week and to make it possible for them to have the best experience possible. And that requires a lot of work and a lot of things, and there's no room for ego, there's no room for selfishness. There's, you know, some days I'm, working the grill, some days I'm cleaning the toilet, some days I'm mopping a floor. It's awesome when you're around a group of people who will do whatever it takes for the end result. And the end result is to, make a way for these guys to have a great experience, right, and get the most out of the event. So as a leader, a leader in your own home, not only are you willing to do what's required, sometimes that means being able to have hard conversations, which sometimes I suck at. And unless I get in a certain mood, there's the lamb and there's the lion inside me, and most of the time I'm operating out of the lamb mode, I guess, is what you would say for my personality. But you can only poke me so much, things can only go so far, and then the lion comes out, and I know it's necessary, but sometimes I don't know, I wish I could get more done being the lamb. But you gotta have those hard conversations, and sometimes you gotta cause a little conflict, you gotta stand your ground. So I've been trying to grow in that capacity. But the second thing, is willing to do what is not requested. And it's interesting because I'm trying to teach my daughter what that looks like now, and I just had a talk with her tonight about her picking up her stuff and not just leaving it all over the house, and how, she lives here and we all share this house, and so it's our responsibility as a family to take care of it. So that means if you see something on the floor, even if you're not the person who put it on the floor, right, you pick it up. So as leaders in our household, we got to be willing to do things that we might not feel are our responsibility, or we're not directly asked of us. And I don't, what those things look like in your household. I'm sure lots of ideas come to mind for you on that. The next thing is A for accountability, and it's, are you involved in the pursuit of your own spiritual growth and development, and do you show responsibility for your actions? So the first part, right, are you involved in the pursuit of your own spiritual growth and development? For me, my spiritual growth and development is extremely important to me, and I try to do a lot of things regarding that. I have a morning routine where I do my devotions. I belong to men's group at my church. I'm doing other things here and there to help facilitate that, helping with the ministry in India, all those types of things, right? And I think it's important to note that even if you're watching this and if you're not spiritual, because I know I got a lot of friends who aren't, right? This applies to more than just that area of your life. It's really talking about personal growth and development as well, and in your job, in your marriage, in your relationship with your kids, this pursuit, I guess maybe a pursuit of excellence, or a pursuit to make things better, to get better. Really, it's to do everything that's possible with the gifts that you've been given and the things that you've been blessed to have stewardship over: your kids, your wife, your marriage, your household, your job, all those things. And then secondly is, do you show responsibility for your actions? And I was just thinking about this, like, how many times have you heard someone in the position of leadership say they're sorry and they made a mistake? I often wonder what it would look like if the leaders of our country uh, acted like this. Instead of trying to spin the story, or instead of trying to place blame on someone else or the other political factions, if they really just said, you know what, we made a mistake, I'm sorry, here's what we're going to do about it. How far that would go. To me, it'd be interesting to see that play out in the reaction that people might have to it. You know, some people believe that leaders should never say they're sorry. They should never say they make a mistake. It shows weakness. I'm not of that opinion. Oh, I got something in my throat. Excuse me. Hold on. I'm a firm believer, if you make a mistake, own up to it and then make it right. You know, in my experience with my work, you know, I find that with clients, if you've made a mistake and you tell them right away and you own up to it, and then you bring them a solution to solve that problem, then everything's fine. It's when you don't own up to that mistake and you try to either pass blame or just not acknowledge it, or spin the truth, that things go sideways. So A for accountability. And then L is for loyalty. Are you loyal to those around you? So I'd be curious to know what your idea of loyalty is. Like, what does that look like? And I think my idea of loyalty runs counterintuitive to most people's. So my grandpa always used to say this to me, and he would say, real friends tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And to me, that's what loyalty looks like. Right? Are you loyal enough to somebody to tell them when they're not doing right, or when they're making a mistake, or they're going down the wrong path? Think about your own life and the people that you surround yourself with. If you were doing something wrong, how many of them would actually point that out to you? How many of them would actually have the audacity and be willing to jeopardize the relationship to speak truth to you? Right? To tell you something that you might not want to hear, something that might hurt a little bit. And I'm grateful that I've been fortunate enough to have friends in my life who have done that on several occasions. And so when I think of loyalty, that's what I think of. You know, and it goes along with the other things of you know, not betraying someone's trust, or man, I'm having a brain fart here. I don't even know what other people would think of or would define loyalty. Maybe you could give that some more thought. But for me, I'm always going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. That's just the kind of person I am. It's probably the result of my grandpa always preaching that in my ear. But I see what it's like for other people who just surround themselves with yes people. Right? They have friends that are, you know, that are like, yeah, man, do that. You know, I think of something that I saw recently where someone was making a decision that was not in their best interest, and the people they were surrounded with didn't have the courage to tell them that. Might not even have thought that they were making a mistake, which is even scarier. But you know, they even went so far as to tell this person that they should go ahead and do that. There was no talk of possible consequences. There was no talk of who's going to get hurt if you go ahead and do this. It was purely, you know, this is what you want, you should do it, and almost like you deserve this type of thing. I don't know. I'm too old for that. I don't want people like that in my life. I want people who aren't afraid to speak truth to me, and to help me be the best person that I can be. And you can't be the best person that You can't be the best version of yourself if you just have people in your life who tell you what you want to hear. So finally, the T, is for teachability. Are you a know-it-all, or are you willing to learn? And even more importantly, are you willing to change and grow as you learn new things? You know, when I think of my grandpa I think was a great leader. But like all of us, you know, he had his faults. And one of those was he could be really stubborn at times, and he had this saying, and he would say it all the time: "It's my way or the highway." And he really, really believed that. And I remember this one time when we went to pick up my sister's car, was like broke in this parking lot, and we went there with the truck and the trailer, and my grandpa parked the trailer right in front of the car, and then it was me, my grandpa, and a friend of his, and we went and we tried to push this car up on this trailer, and no matter how hard we pushed, we just couldn't get it. We'd get it right to, you know, up, I don't even know what you would call it. We'd have it up on the trailer, and we'd push it onto this trailer, this like flatbed, and we'd almost get it there, but we quite didn't have the momentum. And we tried this for like an hour, and then I kept trying to interrupt my grandpa and say, "Hey, I got an idea. We should, you know," and he's just like, "No, we got this," you know, over and over and over. And finally, after an hour, when we couldn't get it done, I finally grabbed this rope, and I said to my grandpa, I said, "Why don't we just tie one end of this rope to the car, park the trailer, take it off the hitch, tie the other end of the rope to the truck, and drag the car up on the trailer?" And he thought about it for like 10 seconds, and then his response to me was, "Oh, look at you with your fancy college degree," right? Because my grandpa was just, I don't know, he was old school. Like he valued hard work, and you know, which is a great thing. But I like to I don't mind hard work at all. I can work just as hard as anybody else, but if I can work smarter instead of harder, then that's what I'm going to do all day long. And you know, when we're not willing to be teachable, we just we throttle our ability. We throttle the experiences that we could have, the influence and effect that we could have on those in our lives. So are you stubborn, or are you willing to change and grow as you learn new things? And you know, these are serious questions that you got to think about for yourself and your household, and how you live out these roles as a father, as a husband, as a friend, and as a leader in your community, or someone who has the potential to be a leader. Because there's plenty of guys that are in leadership positions that don't act like leaders, and we all know those guys. And then there's plenty of guys who have leadership potential, but they don't ever do anything to develop that. So this is part one of leadership. Next week we're going to talk about part two, and what that looks like. So I appreciate you guys tuning in for this Sunday sermon, and I wish you the best as you get ready for the week that lies ahead and everything that is in store. If anybody needs anything, you just need to get something off your chest, or you need someone to talk to and just listen, because you've got some things in your life and you're not exactly sure how to make sense of them or deal with them, please, you know, shoot me a DM. I'd love to get together and talk with you. Just be there to support and encourage you. We all need friends that are willing to listen to what we have to say, no matter how embarrassing it might be, no matter how shameful we might think it is, because there's something about sharing those things in a safe environment, right? Keyword safe environment, or keyword safe environment. But there's this universal principle. Don't know how it works, don't know why it works, just know that it does. When you voice your feelings and talk about what's really going on, those things have no more power over you. Doesn't mean they're instantly fixed. Doesn't mean that you won't have any more feelings tied to them. But that shame will break off. That guilt will break off. That condemnation will break off, because you've taken this thing that has been a secret, right, that you've hidden inside your heart and no one knows about, and now you've brought that to the light and told somebody. You know, the Bible in James says, confess your sins one to another so that you can be healed. It doesn't say so that the people hearing it can be healed. It says so you can be healed, right? So there's power behind confession and bringing things to the light. The enemy can't have any more control over you. It's got to will. It does. Breaks off, fades away, melts away, and you just feel like a new person. So I've experienced in my life time and time again, and in the lives of hundreds of different men in my experience. So I just want to encourage you on that. So that's it for tonight. Hope you guys have a good night. I'm gonna sleep good. It's raining here. Love it when it rains. That's like when you get the best sleep. We'll see you back here tomorrow for My Life Monday. Have a good night.